Clues by Sam. It's my birthday today and we have a hard one. And if you don't know what Clues by Sam is, it's a daily logic puzzle game where you have 20 people on a board who may be criminals or innocents, and you gotta figure out what each person is using the clues that they themselves give you. Now, if you want to play the game before watching the video, you can check the link in the description, but if you just want to follow along, let's start. I can already see Betty giving us a clue that exactly 2 innocents in row 5 here are neighboring Wanda. Wanda is also in row 5, so she only has 2 neighbors in row 5. Both of them have to be innocent. Is this the day where everyone is innocent? I'm waiting for that. Now, Vicky tells us there's an odd number of innocents neighboring Larry up here. Larry has 8 neighbors total. I was gonna say 8 innocents neighboring him, but that's not true, right? We just know that's an odd number, so it couldn't be 8. Now, Zaya tells us that each row has at least 2 criminals. Oh, that tells us that row 5 has 2 criminals, which means that both Wanda and Zara have to be criminals. Let's leave that clue there. It's gonna be useful later. Now, Wanda tells us there are more innocents in row 2 than row 4. Okay, so row 4 has only 1 innocent. Because we know that row 4 has to have at least 2 criminals. And it wouldn't be possible with more than 2 innocents. Or is that about row 2? Yeah, because if row 2 is to have more innocents than row 4, but it has to have 2 criminals, then row 2 has to have 2 innocents only. At most. But we don't know who yet. So let's go for Zara's clue. Only one of the 3 innocents neighboring Rob is Zaya's neighbor. People who neighbor Rob and Zaya are Phil, Wanda, Thor, and Zara. 2 of them are already criminal, Wanda and Zara, so if only one of them is gonna be innocent, it can only be Phil or Thor. And we also know that Larry has a number of innocents neighboring him. But what does that tell us? Ooh, this is a lot of things to think about. We know there's gonna be 1 innocent and 1 criminal here. And we know that row 4 has only 1 innocent, right? Because of what we said before. Row 2 has 2 innocents at most, and it has more innocents in row 4, so row 4 has only 1 innocent. Or it could be that row 4 has no innocence, but now we know for sure that it's gonna be 1 who's either gonna be Phil or Thor, which means that both Rob and Oscar are criminals. Now Oscar tells us that Nick is one of 3 criminals in row 3. Nick here. And there's 2 more here. But we don't know who yet. Rob tells us that only one of the 3 innocents neighboring Mary is below Hazel. 3 innocents neighboring Mary. One of them is already here, either Phil or Thor. And one of them is below Hazel, who is here. It could be Phil. We don't know yet. It could be Phil. And if it's Phil, ooh, I love my tags. If it's Phil, then it's not Larry. But if it's Larry, then it's not Phil. And we know that Mary has 2 other innocent neighbors. But if it's Phil, then both Larry and Thor are criminals. But if Phil is a criminal, then both Larry and Thor are innocents, which will give Mary 2 of her 3 total innocent neighbors. So let's keep that in mind. Nick now tells us that Clyde is one of Betty's 4 criminal neighbors. Betty has 5 neighbors total. Clyde is a criminal. And there's 3 more criminals here among these people. So what do we know about that? Let's consider Larry. Or should we consider Larry? We know that row 3, someone said something about row 3, right? Yeah, Oscar said that there's 3 criminals in row 3. And they could be Kumar and Mary. We don't know. But we also know that Larry has an odd number of innocent neighbors. If Larry has an innocent in row 2, and we know that row 2 has 2 innocents, one of them has to be Joyce. Why is that? This one is hard. I love it. Betty has 4 criminal neighbors, right? So that means that Betty only has 1 innocent neighbor. It could be someone here. It could be Gabe or Hazel or Isaac. It's perfectly possible. But we know that row 2 has to have 2 innocents. That person has to be either here, but we couldn't have 2 innocents here because Betty only has 1. So, oh, we do know that that person has to be here. So Anna is a criminal. But let's first look at Joyce, because row 2 has to have 2 innocents. Betty can only have 1, so the other innocent in row 2 can only be Joyce. And since we know that row 2 has 2 innocents, there has to be someone here who is an innocent, but Betty only has 1, so Anna couldn't be an innocent. Good. Oh, all of these people are farmers. That's interesting. Now Anna tells us that exactly 1 farmer has an innocent directly to the left of them. So what does that tell us? It tells us that either Hazel or Gabe are innocent, right? Because then they will be the innocent to the left of someone else. But if Isaac were to be an innocent, then no farmers would have innocents to their left. So Isaac couldn't be the innocent here, because there's no other farmers on the board. So that checks. Isaac's a criminal. And now Isaac tells us there's an equal number of innocents in rows 1 and 4. And we know that row 4 has only 1 innocent. Row 1 already has an innocent, is Betty, so Flora has to be a criminal. Now Flora tells us that Kuma and Thor have an equal number of innocent neighbors. Flora so far has 1 innocent neighbor, Zaya. And we know about Kumar. We know that Kumar is going to have 1 here who's either going to be Larry or Phil. And another one here who's either going to be Gabe or Hazel. So that's 2. Which means that Thor has to have 2. That's Mary. And now I think that helps us with Larry's situation. So Larry has to have an odd number of innocent neighbors. And he's going to have 1 here. So Gabe or Hazel. He has another one here who's Mary, so that's 2. He has to have a 3rd one, who's either going to be Phil or Kumar. How do we know who is that? Oh, we know that there's 3 innocents neighboring Rob. So Phil couldn't be, Zara tells us that, so Phil couldn't be a criminal. Because if Phil were to be a criminal, we know that both Larry and Thor would be innocents. And then Rob would have 4 innocent neighbors. So Phil has to be an innocent. which would make both Thor and Larry criminals. And since Larry has to have an odd number of innocent neighbors, and he's gonna have 3, considering that Mary fell and someone up here, Coomer couldn't be an innocent, or else Larry had 4 innocent neighbors, which is an even number. So Coomer is a criminal. Good. Now, where do we look at? We don't need Oscar School anymore. 3 innocents neighboring Mary. Oh, Mary has Phil and Joyce as innocent neighbors. She has to have 1 more, and that could only be Hazel. So Hazel is an innocent, and because of that, Gabe is a criminal. I like it. How long did that take? 10 minutes. Good. For a hard one, all green on my birthday. That's a great birthday gift. But that's really nice. I love it, and I hope you enjoyed it. So give it a like and tell me if you played it, how it went for you, and I'll be back tomorrow with more Clues by Sam.